Mother's Day. Saturday night was shit. Just kids up heaps and all that, like, so we just, yeah. But, yeah, it ended up still sleeping because that's what you do at night. Anyway, woke up in the morning. Lexi, so sweet. I'd gone and got back a couple Mother's Day gifts, and Lex is just huge on presents and on like gifts and events, and she's her mother's daughter, and so we woke up in the morning and she had already laid out all the cards and all the gifts on like the living room, the living room little coffee table thing. It was so funny. And so yeah, we woke up to that, and we sat down and we went through that, and it was really sweet. I wrote this card to Beck, and it was really sweet. Actually, you don't get to hear it. That's for her. Nearly made her cry. So, yeah. Then we had Lolly, my sister-in-law, and her kids came around for brekkie. Everyone else was either away or occupied doing other stuff. So it was actually really nice. It was really sweet hanging out. You know, the kids running around doing their thing, and you know, we're here, just chatting over life, and it's been good. We haven't had a proper catch up in quite some time. That was cool, and I also bailed her up because one of the things we kind of identified when we were talking the night before on Saturday night in the bath, one of the things we identified was, you know, like 4 kids, house, business, fitness. There's a lot to do, you know, and yeah, we're probably going to. Well, we asked her like, hey, listen, if you know of any kids who want to do some after school work, pretty basic, literally. The vast majority of our shit is like, you know, washing dishes, tidy the house, clothes, like basic. But it takes up so much of the time every day, especially like with 6 of us in the house. So we're just like, listen, if you've got someone who's up for that, we're more than happy. A couple hours or even like an hour after school each day, you know, just there you go. So yeah, so we're going to find out about that, hopefully. Yeah, there's someone kicking around in her network who is open to that. That'd be lovely. So yeah, so Mother's Day at church, ended up chatting with a mate of ours there. I was talking to him yesterday about the whole like shame thing, and he found it pretty interesting as well. And so we talked around that and comparison and all that. And yeah, and so this is the thing that I mean, I covered most of it in the last episode. The thing that I'm trying to find the balance is, okay, like, here I am. I'm not happy with where, especially with respect to fitness, but the areas I would say that I'm not happy with in my life are my level of fitness. For the most part, like, man, I get shit started like no one. I'm really, really, really good at getting the momentum. But then actually, like, seeing it through to 100%, I'll do to 80% real easy. But I mean, even thinking about, like, you know, I've got a meeting with the team tomorrow, and it's like, when I think around, there's so many loose, before I even think about, like, growing, there's so many loose ends that need to be tied off. And, and that, so I'd say follow through. Follow through is one of the big areas that I need to, oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, see, it just, anyway. So I'd say follow through, fitness, follow through and discipline, let's just call it that. You know, I feel like I would like to be further ahead with respect to our like net worth. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. So you know, there's those are the areas that come to mind. I feel like, oh, you know, and maybe like, you know, being more grounded and balanced in like, I'm gonna go just ahead and say like emotional regulation, perhaps. Like, I just hate unloading shit on the kids or getting frustrated with them and that. Like, you know, I'm not too bad with. Actually, I'm really good with Beck, but with the kids, I'm just like, shut up! Like, what are you whinging about now? You know, and every now and then I'll mention that to him. I'll say that. I'll literally say that to him. You know, where it'll just be like constant one thing after another, and you're putting out fire and fire and fire, and then all of a sudden, Dad, this. I was like, what do you want? Just sort it out. I don't care. But also, I'm like, it's a prick of a move. I remember like there was this one thing. Remember saying like, if you want them to care about what you're interested in, you got to be interested in what they're interested in now. And it'll be shit like, hey dad, watch this. What is it? And they'll like, okay, this is this morning. Tilly, dad, watch this. And she gets this balloon, walks up, pops me like it just gets, it's weird. I can't explain it. She thought it was hilarious. Gets a balloon, walks up, hits me on the belly with it, and walks away. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I was like, that's funny, babe, thanks. Like, I couldn't work it out. But to her, I could have very easily just been like, no, leave me alone, I'm eating breakfast. But I was like, no, okay, what's going on? Like, and she's like, turn and face me. I was like, sure, turn. Boop, and she's like, oh, I was like, okay, cool. And I'm conscious that if I don't engage like that with the kids, they're just going to grow up thinking like, dad doesn't give a shit. Because my actions highlight the fact that I don't give a shit. But I do give a shit. So... yeah. Anyway, how did we get onto that? Yeah. Anyway. So, that's right. So there's this whole like, all right, so there's where I want to be. Here's where I am. And there's a gap between it. And for me to be able to even implicitly, and this is kind of what I realize, is implicitly be able to go, well, I'm there and I'm not. There has to be a level of self-judgment. And the thing I find out myself is just going, well, why the fuck aren't you there, Billy? Like, why aren't you at that point? Like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Why aren't you there? And then I'm just like, I find myself just spiraling and I'm like, fuck. And then also afterwards, I end up looking around and I'm just going, holy fuck, shut up. I have the privilege to record this fucking podcast. And like, my kids are all healthy. My wife is absolutely gorgeous and driven and like, and we have a business that is doing well, and like, and I'm not renting. I own a house, and we've paid off our cars, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up, like, oh, I sound like an ungrateful shit, and maybe that's just self-judgment and criticism again. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like torn between striving, maybe that's the problem, but striving for more to be more and everything else while maintaining and being grateful for what I have now. And this is the hard part. It's not like I'm not grateful. It's not like, or maybe I am ungrateful. I'll tell you this for free. One thing that's like frustrating as fuck is starting to like I go, okay, sweet. The frustrating thing, ultimately is I don't know what I don't know, and I keep getting caught out by what I don't know. Right, and the only way to make the unknown known is to do it, right? And so, like, for instance, there are so many opportunities. Like we get silver platted so many opportunities all the time, and I'm looking at it and I'm going like, okay, I don't want to take those opportunities though, because I am very, very, very confident we're not ready to scale just yet. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's try put this system in, and let's try and do that, and let's try and engage the team this way, and then it's like ultimately everything comes down to you. Like, if it's not working, this is specifically in business. I feel like business trajectory really affects most other areas of our lives right now. On an external sense, I understand. No one can hurt you without your consent. Let's just go with that. And ultimately, it's an internal game. But even with the business, like leading the team and leading your business and everything else, it's like, well, if people aren't on board, it's because you're a shit leader, or maybe not shit, but you need to be a better leader. And I'm like, okay, the fuck does that look like? Oh, I nearly got him. Yeah. And I think because I mean, here's the thing. There's actually, sorry, there's one person that I've worked for back when I was operating the loader, Gavin Henry, absolute legend. He came in guns blazing, and he was a piece of shit. We all hated him. By the time that he left, well, I left. No, yeah, no. He'd moved site. By the time that he left, we all loved him. He was a hard man, but we loved him. He was hard but fair. And I think that's probably the only example of someone that I go there. And the thing is, I wouldn't want to emulate him completely. There are parts about it I was like, yeah, nah, dude. But there was a lot about him that I was like, yeah, like in hindsight, I really, really valued his leadership. Albeit hard, albeit very. Um, uh, he just took no shit ultimately. But you knew where you stood, and it was good. So, but yeah. Anyway, I feel like I'm going around in circles. Yeah, and I think that part of it's just I just go, fuck it. I'll just go unapologetically do whatever I want to do and just have like a little vision board and continue to dangle, go, oh, that's the carrot that I want, and dangle the carrot in front of there and use that as motivation and focus on it and all that sort of shit. And, yeah, that is really what I want and all that sort of wank until I get it. And then, yes, Darty, happy days. And I just go, well, is that really how I want to live? And I don't think it is. And, yeah. Yep. I'm just reading my notes. I think, yeah, so part of it's this balance between family and life and business, and how can you make it all work really well at the same time? And I don't know if that's so bullshit. I was going to say I don't know if that's possible, but I think it has to be. There has to be somewhere of all the 8 billion people that exist. There has to be someone somewhere who's worked out how to do life and family and business really, really well, and not compromise on the three of them. And then you get like, I remember, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I was listening to that excerpt from Diary of a CEO with Chris Bumstead, right? Now, here's this guy who's like Mr. Olympia or something. Oh, maybe he's not Mr. Olympia, but he's pretty close to it. And he was talking about with his therapist, and she was saying how, you're trying to be the best partner, the best bodybuilder, the best businessman, the best this, the best that, blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, you kind of can't do them all. And I'm going, well, firstly, is that the right is that therapist the right person to take that advice from? And is there someone else who has harmony across those areas? There has to be. Of all the 8 billion people, there has to be someone somewhere. And there has to be someone who's written a book about it or, shared their thoughts on it in a way that is concise enough and makes sense for, little old Billy in the middle of WA to understand. Like, part of me just wants to, like give up on that and just go, it's okay. I'm a family man right now and focus on that and at the exclusion of business and all these sorts of things. And then the other half of me goes, fuck that. Not in the sense of family, like absolutely family. If I had to choose business over family, I'd choose family every single time. This is probably my frustration, is because I do continue to choose to put my family over the business. There has to be a way. There has to be a way. And ultimately, I just come back to it has to be like my lack of leadership. I think so. I think that's it. Is that right now, I just think I'm a shit leader. And call that self-criticism or judgment or whatever. But, I mean, ultimately, like, ownership says, like, it has to be you. And yeah, and I think that, yeah, there's things about the this is obviously yesterday's episode. So there's things that are kind of that I've had conversation with someone else today about that. Fucking maybe I just spend too much time strategizing and not enough time doing. And here's the thing, like, I shit you not, I'm not fucking on a holiday either. I am actively working on shit in the business forever, like, putting structures in place and you know communicating with the team and training the team up and all that sort of shit too. It's not like I'm just fucking, but also like I'm also conscious that we've got a 2 month old. Yeah. Anyway, after all that, we went to Jacob and Rochelle's for a family lunch for Mother's Day. First things first, Eliza was so tired. She was falling asleep while we were driving out there. So took her straight to the family room and we had I napped for about 15 minutes while she fell asleep and she was so gone. So I left her and went and joined everyone else. And Tilly, she's so cool. I love my kids. I was going to have a steam because Jacob's got a steam room. So I was going to jump in the steam room and Tilly was like, Dad, can I join you? I was like, yeah, sure thing, baby. So we hopped in there for probably 10 or 15 minutes. It was like 50 degrees. For those who understand steam rooms, like 50 degrees in a steam room is like 65 in a sauna. It is sweaty hot and you can't avoid it. And it is. Woo-hoo. So Till's obviously like his heat rises. She didn't get it as bad because she wasn't up at the same height that I was. And yeah, so but it was good. She's such a machine. So anyway, she decides, she's like, oh, Dad, I want to hop out. I was like, no problems, baby. And she was drying herself off, and I was like, you know what, I'm pretty close to getting out. I might as well just hop out now. And I said to her, I was like, darling, do you want to have like a nice cold shower? Like cool down a little bit. She's like, yeah. And so she comes back in, turn on the cold water, and I was like, now, sweetie, I was like, when you get in the cold water, it's gonna be a big shock. She's like, okay. And so she wore. And I said to her, I was like, you gotta make sure you focus on breathing. Don't focus on how cold it is. Focus on your breathing. Think about how you're breathing. She's like, okay. We've worked with the kids, like, you teaching them some, breathing through your nose and circular breathing and, all these sorts of things. And it's been really cool. So she goes in there. Little trooper. Man, she like did not bat a single eyelid. It was incredible. Walks in there, just backs straight in under that cold water for ages. And I was like, what? I was expecting to do the old back touch, and then after a while she kind of walked out. I was like, damn. I was like, Tilly, you done good, girl. Like, high five. I was like, that's amazing. Like, well done. And she's like, oh, thanks, Dad. And I was like, cool. I was like, if you want to stay in there longer, I was like, you just got to think about, you got the cold water on your back. I was like, imagine that your body is putting the cold from your back into your tummy and into your chest, and you breathe and you focus on your breathing. You just make the cold come into your chest. And she was like, okay. Jumps back under there, same thing. Breezed it through. I was like, sheesh. She is one tough cookie. So yeah, so that was cool. Um, so yeah, we hopped out, dried off, had lunch with everyone. That was just beautiful lunch. Tons of meat, so perfect. Then Sterling was really restless, and so I had a nap with Stills. While he was nodding off to sleep, I started reading this book book by Brad Jacobs called How to Make a Few $1 Billion. Probably not the best book to read in the current, like, what the fuck does everyone else have that I don't mentality at the moment. And like, it's so crack up. This guy's like 23 and he's talking about, this is back in like the 80s or some shit. Maybe the 90s. I think it was the 80s anyway. He was 23. He was trading like futures, in like oil commodities and something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was going like, it ended up being like a $1.3 million business in 4 years. And I'm like, it's a billion, sorry, $1.3 billion business in 4 years. And I was like, how do you do that? How at 23 do you do that? How do you have the understanding of how to actually like even organize people, systems, understand the gaps in the market, all that sort of shit in under the age of 30? How? And I'm like, and again, I'm like, what does he have that I don't? He's got something that I don't. He's got something I don't understand. Anyway. Wah. Big cry. Bitch. Stop whinging. That was the thing. So yeah, so then had a nap on the chair holding Sterling. That was nice. Babies are a good excuse to have a sleep. And then, yeah, I... Gosh, what was I going to say? Yeah, anyway, kids had a bath and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, it was actually really cool while they were asleep. Stills was awake, and he just he loves being around people. He loves just talking to me, chatting to me, all that sort of stuff. It was really cool, and so I made some, so I spent a bit of time, probably 10 to 15 minutes, just hanging out with him. But like his face is this far away, and we're just talking. He's goo and gaga and all that sort of thing, and he loves it, and it's really cool. There's something about animals and babies that when they love being with you, it's just like you've made it. It's just pure, unadulterated pleasure in your presence, and you're like, yeah, you know what? That's cool. I've won life. And so that was cool. Made some toast for the kids while Rochelle and Beck were doing the puzzle. That was really nice. And while I was sitting at the table, we've got in the habit recently of telling stories instead of reading books, and it's been really cool. And I was talking with Lolly about it in the morning, and she was saying how what they've started doing it this week as well, and it was a funny coincidence. And the way they do it is that they get the kids to pick 3 items, and you have to combine them into a story. And I was like, that's sick. So I asked the kids tonight, I was like, what 3, because I've got 3 daughters, Eliza's nearly able to communicate, so the other 2. And I was like, Lexi, you pick one. She was like, Mr. Bad Guy. And I was like, okay, cool. Tilly, you pick something. And she was like, food. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, and Eliza? And she was like, moo. I was like, cow. She was like, yeah. I was like, all right, sweet. So anyway, told this story about a bad guy who wanted to, take this whole restaurant. It was so good, but then he tasted the food and it changed his heart. It turns out he was just hungry, and that was funny. I thought it was hilarious. That was a good story. Then Lexi said to me, she was like, can we have another one? I was like, okay, sure, whatever. It takes about 15, 20 minutes to tell the story, right? And so I was like, what story? She was like, you should tell the story of Moana, because that's her favourite movie. And I was like, okay. And so I did, but the challenge was I didn't want to do it exactly. So I told the story of Moana from the perspective of the chicken, hey, whoever's seen the movie Moana. And yeah, so it was really cool. They got a lot of humour out of that. And yeah, Darty. And then we came home and everyone was knackered and went straight to bed. And that was it. Yep, that was the day.